Good afternoon. On behalf of Veterans of Politics International, I want to thank you very much for coming on, Your Honor. Also, I just got to get a couple things out of the way. I want to also thank Dr. Robert Madoff, who is the one with Veterans of Politics International that's been making all the phone calls to reach out to the candidates to get them the RSVP for these endorsement interviews. Also, this endorsement interview is being sponsored by Patsy Brown, who is running for Clark County Public Administrator. So, Your Honor, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background about how this process works. Okay. First, all three of the panel members will give a 30-second introduction about ourselves so you know who we are, and then you can answer our questions. But before we get to our questions, after that, you'll get 2 minutes to introduce yourself. This is my script. You can't debate yourself because you're, for whatever reason, your opponents didn't show up. So that's on them. And then after the question and answer period is over, then you'll get 2 minutes for conclusion to tell everybody why you're the best candidate, and then also any campaign information you would like to give out. Okay. So I'll go ahead and start by introducing myself. My name is Jim Jonas. I'm Director of Veterans of Politics International, and I also co-host the podcast with Steve Sanson.
Chris Eisenhower, born in Guam, raised in San Diego until I was 17, been in Vegas since. I'm 35, I'm married, 2 kids, 2 dogs. Served in the Navy for 4 years, also worked at a mine as an electrician, and I'm currently a Clark County electrician.
Very good. Hello, I'm Robert Faust. I'd like to thank you for being here today. I'm a third-generation VFW. We were all drafted. My grandfather in World War I, my father in World War II. I fought in Vietnam. After the war, I played baseball for 10 years. I authored 2 books that have recently come out, and I spent 4 years in the penitentiary for drug smuggling.
Judge, if you'd like to introduce yourself. Okay. And why you're running for re-election and why you want our endorsement.
So I'm Judge Suzan Baucum. I was born and raised here in Las Vegas, went through the public school system, went away for college and law school, came back to Nevada after law school. I worked for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges in Reno for 2 years, providing legal services, training programs for judges, social workers, and attorneys across the country, dealing with abuse and neglect of kids. I also was in private practice, did an internship with the Ada County Prosecutor's Office in Boise, Idaho. While I was with the National Council, I was asked to throw my name into the ring for the executive director position for the Nevada Law Foundation, which I was hired for. I served, that's a position, affiliation of the State Bar of Nevada, Nevada Supreme Court. I served as the executive director of the Nevada Law Foundation for 19 years, providing legal access funding for abused women and children, senior citizens, and the less fortunate members of our community. I decided to run for judge when the Department 13 seat came up, a brand new seat in 2010. I ran. There were 3 prosecutors and a criminal defense attorney that opposed me in that brand new seat. I won. I ran again in 2016. I won again. And I'm running again in 2022. I love my job. I love serving this community. I have provided service to this community for 30 years. I've raised a family here. 2 daughters, went through Our Lady of Las Vegas Catholic School and then through the Las Vegas Academy. One graduated college in Southern California. My youngest is at George Washington University as a junior. I have great children. This community has given so much to us, to my entire family, that I have always wanted to give back and continue to serve this community. I'd like to thank all of you for your commitment to this process, for your service. My father served in World War II. My brother was in Vietnam, brother-in-law in Korea. My sister and other brother-in-law served in the first Gulf War, and I have many nephews that have also served as well. So I appreciate your service and your commitment to our country.
Okay, I'll start off with the first question. Judge, just for full disclosure, I've known this judge for quite some time now. With all the stuff that you've done in the community and with the amount of time and effort you put into it, and being a current Justice of the Peace judge, why haven't you tried to go to another level other than JP? What is it about being a Justice of the Peace that really makes you so happy that you want to stay in that level?
So, Jim, thank you for asking that question. Las Vegas Justice Court is the people's court. It's the first court that many individuals are ever in their entire life, whether that's for a traffic ticket, an eviction matter, small claims, or a criminal case. And they're everyday people. They're people like you and me. They're individuals from all walks of life. I like being on the front lines. I like being there. I do a lot of outreach in the community, like, as you know, and we've discussed previously. For 10 years, I sat as on the driving under the influence court. I presided over that court. Hundreds of cases, thousands of cases, sometimes more than 200 cases every single day. And I think that being able to participate in the community, reach out to the community, I talk with children, grade school, middle school, high school, our university kids, because if we can get the message out, if we can try to stop some of that behavior before it starts, and a lot of that just happens with communication and community outreach, I think that we can help people learn about the court system, learn about what they don't want to do and why they don't want to get there. I tell a lot of our young people that your mother doesn't ever want to see your name on the front page of the newspaper if you've been arrested or if you killed somebody. If you've just have been the high point scorer at the Rebel basketball game or in high school, they definitely want to see your name on the front page of the paper. But I like being at that level of the community. I like serving our people. And I think that we have more of a hands-on experience with the community in justice court than we do in district court, the appellate court, or even the Supreme Court. I love my job and I love where I am.
Can you tell us what party you're representing and what religion are you?
Of course.
And would you allow religion to interfere in your decisions?
Of course, I will answer those questions. And as I'm sure you already know, and that judges all run as nonpartisan, much like the sheriff's races. But that being said, I am a registered Republican. I am a member of Our Lady of Las Vegas Catholic Church and have been for a number of years. But as judges, we are to apply the law fairly, without bias or prejudice. I believe I've done that for the 12 years that I've been on the bench, and that I will continue to do so.
So they're having issues with the bail, and I was a bail bondsman at one time, so I understand it. But could you give us a little bit of your thought on bail and how it should be assessed and who should get it?
So, as you know, bail reform has been a really hot topic in this country for the last couple of years. A few years ago, Justice Hardesty, when he was the Chief Justice of the Nevada Supreme Court, along with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council in Clark County and all of the other community partners around the state, there was a commission that was set up to take a look at bail, take a look at bail being applied more uniformly, and so that we would take into consideration all factors so it would be applied fairly no matter what your financial ability to pay would be. So they came up with a pretrial risk assessment tool to use as a factor. In addition to that, in the old days, 5-6 years ago, when somebody was arrested, we would, as judges, receive a copy of their arrest report, the temporary custody record, and we would take a look at that, take a look at the charges, and set bail based on a bail schedule. So it really didn't give us a lot of information about prior criminal history, financial ability to pay, or anything like that. So they came up with a Nevada pretrial risk assessment tool, which there are several questions on the front. You open it up to page 2, and it will tell you an individual's prior criminal history, the number of felony arrests, misdemeanor arrests, if they've had any failures to appear, if they've had any pending cases. So you take that along with the temporary custody record arrest report, the Nevada pretrial risk assessment tool, and you look at the factors set forth for bail pursuant to NRS 178.485, and then you make a determination as to bail, whether or not you think that person will come back to court, whether or not you think that they're a good candidate for bail, if you think they would flee the jurisdiction, what their propensity to commit crimes again, taking all of that into consideration, along with the new case Valdez-Jimenez, which adds a couple of other levels of protections and things that judges take a look at.
All right. So my next question for you then is, when I grew up, I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day. Now, I'm not going to ask you if that should be mandated or not, because that's outside the purview of a judge. But I had a school teacher that made an imprint on me, and it said liberty, and she would always say liberty and justice for some. Okay. So that leads me to my question, plea bargains. Okay. So let's just say I have enough money to pay for a really good attorney. And that attorney knows the city attorney very well. They figure out a plea deal, right? I sign off on it, and then it comes in front of the judge. Would you be willing to say, wait, hold on 1 second. This doesn't seem like enough of a penalty for this individual just because they had enough money to pay for a high-priced attorney?
So the majority of cases that we hear in Las Vegas Justice Court are resolved. And what I mean by resolved, the district attorney makes an offer to the defense attorney, and that individual agrees based on the offer, and they enter a plea. Okay? So that's the majority of cases. Plea bargaining does save a lot on time, county time, all the way across the board. It saves on the cost of trials. It saves time for the district attorneys, time for defense attorneys. And the majority of those cases, I think, that come before me as a judge that I have seen appear to be fair and reasonable in light of a criminal's or an individual's prior criminal history. There have been times that I have asked questions to say, can you approach the bench, or, everybody agreed with this? Sometimes it seems a little harsh. Sometimes it doesn't seem to be harsh enough. Okay. I know that as a justice of the peace, when I presided over the driving under the influence court, that we would always have young individuals, 25 or younger, take an added course of the coroner's victim impact panel, because that was very impactful. And I've had kids come up to me even today that have said, Judge, thank you for making me take that extra class, because I learned a lot, and I learned that I never want to get behind the wheel of a vehicle under the influence again. So if I have ever gone outside of a plea agreement, it's been to just add that additional class for somebody, waive their fees so they didn't have to pay for it, but because I felt that it would give them a better understanding of what they didn't want to do, if that makes sense.
To continue on with DUI is not a good thing, but there are people whose blood alcohol level is not as affected as much as some people's. So some people don't get as drunk, I to put it bluntly. But the fees, the fines around drunk driving in the last 5-10 years have gone out of hand. And, a lot of this money goes to outside groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And so what do you have to say about that?
So depending on which court system you're in front of, there is a different fee scale, and that's set by the county commission, city council, the legislature. In Las Vegas Justice Court, on a first-time DUI, somebody would be required to take 2 classes, the 8-hour DUI class and a victim impact panel class, and pay a $685 fine. Now, the fines can be worked off either by payment or community service. If it's a second-time offense, that fine's going to go up to $1,000, and that's pretty standard. I know that Las Vegas Municipal Court, their fines are a lot higher than they are in Las Vegas Justice Court. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money if you get arrested, and but those fines and those fees can be worked off via community service.
All right, so let me switch gears off that one. So part of the role as a justice of the peace is to determine whether felony or gross misdemeanors, have enough evidence to be bound over to the district court.
Correct.
What's your threshold for that? Or is that something that the legislature already bound you to?
So in justice court, on a gross misdemeanor or felony case in a preliminary hearing, you have to establish that probable cause has been met, and the burden that the state has to prove is slight or marginal evidence, unlike a jury trial or a bench trial where it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's minuscule, and that has to be established by the DA's office.
It's a very general question. What are some of your highlights of your career as a judge? Any specific ones you may know of?
So, like I said earlier, I absolutely love my job. I love what I do each and every day. Not everybody can say when they get up in the morning that they look forward to going to work. And I never have a day where I don't want to go to work. But I think that the biggest joy that I have out of being a judge is when I run into somebody on the street that has been before me, or I get a letter or a card that says, "Thank you for helping me. Thank you for doing what you did. Thank you for sending me to drug treatment court or to DUI treatment court. Thank you for giving me a chance to make me a more productive member of the community." In fact, I have to say, last week I went to pick up some donuts, and I ran into a young lady who was working in the shop, and I paid for my donuts, and I said, "You look familiar." And she said, "I appeared before you twice." She said, "On a DUI." And she said, "And the second time you made me take that coroner's class." And she said, "That changed my life."
All right, Judge, I'm going to ask you a loaded question.
Did you ask anybody else loaded questions today, Jim?
Oh, yeah. Judge, we've known each other. You know I did. And the reason why I say it's a loaded question is because I'm breaking my own rules. Okay. It's outside the purview of the control that you have as a judge. But I do want to, and the reason why I'm asking you this is because I've known you for a number of years. And I know you're the type of person that will be willing to answer this question. I get frustrated at first off, I don't think judges should be elected. I think they should be appointed and then run for re-election. With that being said, though, what drives you to keep? You're one of the hardest campaigners I know. You're always out there. You hang your own signs. You're always willing to come in and answer questions by people that are not attorneys. Like today, what drives you to want to keep doing that? And do you think that judges should be appointed, not elected?
So The appointment process versus election is a very loaded question. And obviously, we have in Nevada election of judges. And I think that there are good and bad. You can look at the good and the bad on both of those. Many people will say that the appointment process is geared towards the good old boy system. And it can be, right? It can be who you know, who's sitting on that committee. Do you have a relationship with them? Are you going to get sent to the next level? We've seen in the past, there have been instances where large campaign contributions have been made to different organizations to assist in getting people elected. So I don't mind the election process. It gives me the opportunity to be out in the community. I love knocking on doors. I love staying connected to the voters and to the community. I don't think as judges that we should just sit in our ivory towers day in and day out and just rule on cases. I think that we need to know what's going on in our community, and we need to be present in our community and to be a part of our community. And that's why I don't mind running for re-election.
And I apologize for that question,
It's all good.
Judge. Sometimes I forget this isn't. I'm so used to doing the podcast. So honestly, with that being said, there's not really any other questions we have for you. Okay. Other than I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, and this will not affect my decision, but I've known Judge Baucum for a number of years and have a great deal of respect for you.
Thank you.
And so with that being said, if you would like to, I'll give you, we got plenty of time, however long you want to talk about all the great things you've done, how to get people out to support your campaign, contact information, anything you want to say, Judge.
Thank you, Jim. So again, I'd like to thank Veterans in Politics for having me here today, for taking the time out of their schedule to go through this endorsement process. I think it's a very important process. And of course, we all want to have the endorsement from Veterans in Politics in our veteran community. Like I said, I was born and raised in this community. I was raised here. I've raised a family here. I have 30 years of legal experience, 12 that's been on the Las Vegas Justice Court bench. I love my job. I love going to work each and every day. I am asking for your vote. It's Judge Suzan Baucum, and that is Susan with a Z, SUZAN BAUCUM, and it's judgesuzanbaucum.com. You can go to my website. You can donate if you'd like to. You can reach out to me, send me a message on Facebook about how you can get involved in my campaign. If you want to go knock on doors with me, I'd be happy to have you help me out with that. And again, I'd like to thank Veterans in Politics for their time, and it's Judge Suzan Baucum for re-election, Las Vegas Justice Court, Department 13. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, that will conclude our endorsement interview.
Thank you.